Hey there, folks. Man, that was a kind of a slight disaster. I got the blue screen of death just as I entered the studio. So that was really pleasant. And now we're going to try to bring in Michael Dodd. Uh, hello, Michael Dodd. Hello, Michael Taylor. How are you? Good God. Okay, folks, bear with me here. What a freaking nightmare, man. That was pretty nuts. Okay, here we go. I'm putting the link in the chat here, Michael Dodd. Try that because that's the link. That is the correct link, man. We'll see if that works. Hopefully, it will work. Man, there's nothing like the blue screen of death to start off your show. Geez, Louise, that was a hell of a thing. I could not even believe it. The horror. Oh, the horror. Oh, I think he's in. There he is. Jeez Louise. That was
Hey
a
man,
hell of a thing. Hey, how's it going, Michael Dodd?
yeah, pretty good.
The horror. Okay, I'm getting an echo there. Do you have the? I think he's in. There he is.
Okay, hold on. Let me get rid of this YouTube.
Okay.
Uh,
Hey, how's it going, Michael Dodd?
okay, is that all right?
Okay, cool. How's it going, man? Yeah, I got the blue. I got the blue screen of death just as I entered the studio at about 11:50.
Yeah.
And so it took me a good 15 minutes to recover from that. I don't know if you've ever gotten that on your computer or not, but
Yeah.
it's pretty bad. And it happens about once every 2 or 3 months to me on this old Asus computer. But fortunately, it's recovered. But if I go out, you'll know it's the blue screen of death again. Okay, I'm
Okay.
just I'm just saying that right now for everybody. Uh, Hello, Mont Comics. How are you doing? Glad to see you here. Excellent. Okay. Yeah, so we have got a heck of a show. Actually, we're talking, this whole thing's going to be horror comics in review. And, I was thinking about it. And, we were talking about, and obviously yesterday you just did a stream on Skywald and their series, The Nightmare illustrated magazines.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that, yeah, because you were talking about the illustrated comics back in the day, and I think you mentioned Eerie and Creepy and so forth. But I started thinking, well, what came before that? You know, and well, it turns out, yeah, I mean, and I'm sure you're probably aware of this, but in 1955, EC Comics did release, their illustrated Tales of Terror
Yes.
magazine.
Yeah.
And that, to me, I believe that is the first, illustrated magazine.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And it was, of course, their immediate response, Bill Gaines' response to uh, the Comics Code Authority. So he was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, we got to do something, real quick." And so he did this magazine. And I've got some. I've actually made a page here. I'm going to put this up. This is just showing some stuff that I want to share today. There we go. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we've got, yeah, original, the EC, EC magazine, original Picto Fiction. Now
Oh
that may,
boy.
that, exactly, that may ring a bell because Myron Foss ripped that
Myron
right
Foster.
off.
He
Uh,
jumped on that boy.
he did. He did. And so this is 1955 and really cool art, and as we'll see here, I just want to show a couple of these issues. I don't have any physical issues.
I don't either of that.
Yeah, these are kind of, I mean, they're not terribly expensive. We're talking about, I don't know, between $100 to $200 depending on condition.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're definitely nothing like the original EC pre-code comics
Right.
in terms of price, but they're not cheap. No doubt about that. It's they will cost a bit. But I got a couple of covers of their original issues here, and they look good. I would say, I think you would agree, they're pretty good looking.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the illustrators they had, this is kind of funny. I found this. Now this is to issue number 1, and to Terror Illustrated, right? And so they have the artists and writers listed here, and of course Reed Crandall,
Oh,
Joe Orlando,
yes.
Graham Ingalls, Johnny Craig,
Oh
and
man.
good art. I mean, these were the artists that came over from the comic books,
It's an
right? And
all-star
then
lineup, man.
exactly, and they would go on, of course, many of these to do stuff in Eerie and Creepy,
Yeah.
the in the early days, and so the funny thing here, though, is that, for instance, they have the writers listed, and they have, for instance, the basket written by Al Feldstein, illustrated by Graham Ingalls. Then they have this story called The Gorilla's Paw. Of course, it's got to be a take on the monkey's
Monkey's
paw,
paw. Yeah.
written by Alfred E. Newman.
Oh, get out.
Yeah, that is what it says here, illustrated by Johnny Craig. So I'm kind of thinking, well, probably written by William Gaines. I'm
Yeah.
thinking he probably did this and you just used the pseudonym
Right.
Alfred E. Newman,
Yeah.
which is kind of funny. But as you can see here, publisher William Gaines, editor Al Feldstein. And those are the two names that I recognize
Yeah.
on, behind the scenes. But the thing is that it didn't last very long.
Yeah. It
It
didn't
was
fly, man.
Yeah, it did not fly. That's the whole thing about it. And I think it has a lot to do. I mean, obviously, it's not lacking for artists. They had the great ones were in there. And here's the splash page to the Gorilla's Paw,
Wow.
which looks great.
Yeah.
That's just some awesome. When we're talking Johnny Craig doing these illustrations for the Gorilla's Paw. And then now here's a typical page. This is how they were all laid out, which may have been a problem. Now, obviously, there's no problem with the art. The art is looks great, man. No complaints there. But what a boring layout. And this
Yeah.
is
That
this
that's
is
not exciting at all.
It's not. It is not exciting at all. And this is exactly how they laid all of these things out. As I was looking deeper into it, and online you can find more page examples, they're all like this. And I'm like, okay, this is a surefire way of turning people off, even though the art itself is fantastic. I mean, you can't, it's really kind of hard to beat Johnny Craig
Yeah.
here. He's fantastic, but man, what a boring layout.
It's just
So
bland.
yeah, very bland, and I think that's probably why it failed. Not only that, but judging from all of the interior pages that I saw of this, they're all kind of like this. Like, you notice something? They're not extreme at all. They're very classic looking. There's no gore. It's just, they're horror illustrations. But I think William Gaines was playing it safe as well. He was like, okay, look, they're not going to touch us on the code, the comics code, but we're not going to push the envelope like we did with EC Comics. And they all kind of look like this. There's really, it's pretty tame visually speaking. I mean, it looks great. The illustrations, I have no, obviously I have nothing against the illustrations. It's just that they're kind of, ah, in comparison to the original EC Comics, the illustrations are kind of bland. I mean, they're definitely taking it, playing the safe road here.
Well, they
on.
just had that huge extreme witch hunt, and that was still fresh, And I'd say that having to go testify before the Senate and all that in those hearings, that Gaines was a little bit shaken by all that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was precisely it. Even though he was thinking at the time, he was like, "Look, hey, we're going to outfox these guys, and we're going to put out a magazine size, comic book, basically, and bypass the Comics Code Authority." And indeed, I mean, I'm sure a lot of the stuff in these particular issues would have been, would not have been suitable, per the comics code. No doubt about that in my mind. Just if you go back up, for instance, I think they would have even had a problem with this cover because there's some cleavage. You know what I'm saying? I don't think this would have flown on a comic book after 1955.
Yeah, that kind of looks like a racy paperback cover.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And so they got away with that. It's just that they didn't really do it. It's kind of like he was trying to get much more classic in the horror telling, and kind of steering away from that insane EC, over the top stuff,
great
which
stuff.
which got him in trouble.
Yeah, yeah.
So there you go. I mean, this is like, you could, if you look at this, you're just like, okay, this could be in, an illustration in, uh, you know, uh, like Collier's or something, I mean, it's not, it's just, it,
It looks mainstream, like in Life or Look or something like that.
exactly. That's exactly it. It would make any, you could put this in any mainstream publication,
Yeah,
so that's kind of the point of it. And I think that's why it didn't last. It
yeah.
would take, obviously, as we know, and from my understanding, 1964,
Yes, that was
of
it.
course, yeah,
Creepy.
creepy happens. Now, according to what I have read in a few publications, which it's kind of interesting actually. It's concerning creepy, and I've got some a few visuals here. Now, these are the archives, and of course, they with many of the early archives, they're Frazetta
Yeah.
covers. And this is volume 3 of the Creepy Archives that collects Creepy issues 11 through 15. And of course, these are, from Dark Horse. I've got one of them, which I will be showing, but I just wanted to kind of show these initially. There's another really cool Frazetta horror cover. I
Oh
just
yeah.
loved that one.
Classic.
Collecting issues number 51 through 54. And of course, the San Julian cover, which is just fantastic. I just love this cover.
Yeah, I
Uh,
love St. Julian, man. He is fantastic.
he is. He truly is great. The stuff that he did for Eerie and Creepy, and I believe Vampirella, and more. Is just it's just incredibly great
He
stuff.
also did those posters for Uncle Creepy and Cousin Eerie, the wall
Yes,
posters.
the wall
Yeah,
posters.
I've got
Yeah.
those up there.
Oh
Those are
my
great, man.
God.
Yeah,
Wow. Well, are they hanging
yeah,
on your? They're on your wall.
yeah.
Oh my.
They're framed up there above. I've got a little section with all my monster magazines and stuff, and I got posters all around that, and those are up there.
Oh, that's fantastic, man. That is great. Yeah, they are truly great. I love his art. I think he was just, there are so many great artists, of course, in the Eerie and Creepy lineups. But he's way at the top. There's yet another Frazetta, which is kind of a iconic cover for Frazetta there, and this is volume 7 of the archives. And then, of course, the later it
Corbin.
gets, we start getting into some wonderful Corbin stuff.
Yeah.
And they had to do the color. That was the thing with, a lot of those kind of later issues with Corbin. They started doing the Corbin color issues because
Yeah.
man, that color just pops. It is so great. I have this issue, the actual issue of Creepy, and I've got this issue as, let's see. Oh, oh, there it is, of
The one with,
Eerie.
okay.
This one, which
Yeah.
is just an incredible Corbin cover, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I just wanted to kind of show that because Creepy was the first,
Yeah.
as far as like in the 60s, that really, took off, got really popular, 1964. And from what I was reading here, this is an interesting thing that many people may not know. Now, according to a couple of online sources, uh, Russ Jones was, who was the, founding editor of Creepy.
Hmm.
He said that he came up, I mean, basically Creepy was an accident, the word, the name of the magazine. He was close to deadline to getting the I guess the first issue out, and he saw a dialogue balloon from one of the finished stories in the issue, and it said Creepy in it, and he was like, "Wow, that's a great idea," and so he used Creepy as they still at that point had not come to a conclusion on the actual name of the magazine,
Yeah.
and so he decided to name it Creepy. Now, of course, 2 years later, 1966, the whole thing with Eerie is even more interesting, and I think we've talked about this before,
Yeah.
but it was the a kind of a race to get the name, and I want to go all the way down here.
Between Warren and Fass.
Yep, it was Myron Foss versus James Warren, and in this scenario, Warren won.
Yeah.
Basically, they were both vying for the name Eerie, and Warren put out this issue, the first issue of Eerie, which is the Ashcan edition. I do not have this.
I don't either. I've
Yeah,
got a good reprint, but that's about as far as I can go on that.
exactly, exactly. I can remember, Michael, like just I swear to God, 5 years ago, I saw issues for 600 to 800 bucks.
They're like 2 grand now, man.
I know exactly. These things, what people don't realize about certain comics, and it's not obviously, it's just, there's certain issues, and this is one of those issues that will continue to go up because of its rarity,
They
even
only printed
though,
200 of them, you know?
right. And the thing is that, and they did, uh, I think there's like 3 or 4 printings
Yeah,
of.
there's a counterfeit of that.
There's a counterfeit too, easy to counterfeit. I mean, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? It's just like the stapled magazine, black and white magazine. And but basically, yeah, they put out this first issue, like, in the quote unquote in the middle of the night, quickly, and beat Myron Foss. So Myron Foss went ahead and named his company Eerie Publications,
To spite Warren.
just, yeah, to spite Warren, and then of course released Weird,
Yeah.
around the same time.
Yeah.
And so that's the tale, folks. Eerie, uh, basically Jim Warren beat Myron Foss to the punch and was able to take the name Eerie. Who knows what would have happened if Myron was a little faster? He on the draw, it might be a totally different world now. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't know, but it is kind of a fascinating story about Erie. It's just one of those great things. Let's see who we have in the chat before we go any further. I'm seeing a couple of people. Jacob has joined. Oh, hell yeah. I've been waiting for this one. Excellent, man. Oh, we've got some. Oh, do we have some sights to show you, Jacob? Indeed. Michael Taylor, Alfred E. Newman. That's funny. That's a name you don't expect to see in a horror mag. Yeah, but and that it did kind of strike me as being kind of hilarious that he used that pseudonym in the magazine. I just caught that, literally this morning when I was looking at a couple of these pages online, and I was like, wow, okay, 1955. Now, when did he? Do you know, Michael Dodd? When was Mad Magazine established? Was it 1955?
You kind of faded out for a second. What was that again?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you know when Mad Magazine was actually established? The first year of it was that 1955?
I don't collect Matt. I'm not really sure about that. I guess somebody in the chat would probably know.
Yeah, it's a good question because obviously he had the character in 1955 for issue one of this particular, of their first magazine.
I know it
Uh,
started as a comic book and then he changed it to magazine format a little bit later.
yeah, and I'm wondering if any of those comics fell into the pre-code era. I don't know. I really don't know because as you say, I mean, I just didn't. I wasn't. Obviously, I got issues of Mad when I was a teenager. Oh yes, I got some issues at that time, but I
Yeah.
was just never into it like EC Comics or
Right.
anything else like that. It just I liked it. It was
Well,
funny.
that's me. I have a few, but I never really got into the details about it. So I don't know when it started, actually.
Yeah, yeah. Jacob says just picked up that issue 11.
Probably talking about Creepy.
Oh yeah, of course. I don't know which one is 11. Oh, or is he talking about volume 11? I don't know. This is volume 11 of the archives. Hard to say. I'm not quite sure of the
He'll probably
early.
come in and clarify that.
Yeah, he probably will. Love his colors on that cover, red, blue, and purples. Well, that's not it. Oh, this one. This must be it. Yeah, Frazetta was just, man, they were so fortunate to have him to do covers. Good Lord. Wiley J. Draws is here. Hello, sir. I have the whole Warren catalog on disc. Well worth it, man. That is absolutely fantastic. Jacob says Frazetta was my favorite artist. I particularly like to collect high grade creepy works of his. Yes, indeed. That is some fantastic stuff. Michael Taylor says that creepy cover reminds me of King Kong, and indeed it is.
I
I mean,
think it's
it's
his
that
take on King Kong, I think.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's Fay Ray there. Or his version of Fay Ray in the foreground.
His all blowed out, buxom version of Faye.
Yes, exactly,
And as hot as
exactly.
Faye was in real life, she was no Frazetta girl, you know?
No, she was no Frizzy. You're absolutely correct, Michael. Jacob Boranowski says, I like how he drew that woman in motion running away from Kong. Yeah, he was great with motion in paintings. He just had this way of doing it. Look at that figure. Yes, indeed. Those creepy covers are fantastic. Yeah, they are. They are. But wait until you see what we got in store here. Creepy and eerie are one thing. Wait until you see some nightmares and psychos. These are going to be great. Michael Taylor, fascinating story, Mike. Yeah, it is. It's really a trip. I mean, oh, issue number 11 is King Kong. There we go. It is amazing, like the behind the scenes stuff with some of these publishers, just like I don't know, kind of cutthroat shenanigans that were, going around like that in particular was you just have to wonder how that came about with Eerie. Like how did they find out? For example, that like how did Myron Foss find out? Oh man, Jim Warren is going to put out Eerie. I've got to do something, or vice versa. How these things came about because man, this is like 66, and I I don't know. I'm assuming they're. I guess they're both in New York at
Yeah,
this time.
yeah.
So I guess news travels fast.
Hey,
it
hey, man. I've said this and thought about it for years. this should be either a movie or an ongoing series, like on
Yes.
HBO or whatever. And they call it the Monster Magazine Wars.
Yes.
You have Jim Warren and Myron Fass, and later Stan Lee gets in there, and you
Oh
got
God,
Al
yeah.
Hewitson and the guys from Skywald, Brodsky and Waldman. I mean, it's crazy. It's
Y-
like a huge soap opera, and you got these crazy over the top characters like Myron Fassett had that 44 Magnum with a barrel about 2 feet long that he shot off in his damn office, man. I mean, all in the Big Apple, just going nuts up there with these monster magazines.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing, and it would be. I totally agree. It would make for a fantastic series. It would. I mean, the only problem with it is of course, they would have to do it period piece. They
Yeah,
would be, and they would have to start if they wanted to really do it right. They'd have to start like at least 1950, like when Stan Lee was in the Empire State Building. He was doing Atlas, and you had even people, and Myron, you had a young Myron Foss, working for Toby Minoan, doing, covers for like Tales of Horror, as you may remember those, the pre-code comic book covers. So all of these people are working, in the early 50s, and then it just morphs into this thing in the 60s after the pre-code era, and it's fantastic. I mean, it just keeps going. All of those artists that we were talking about, the people that died during that period of time, like Jack Cole, Joe Maneely, people that just like there's a lot of drama, there's a lot of stuff going on, and
yeah,
it's just like for I think for American culture, it's one of the biggest periods of
it is.
time.
It
You
is.
could, you can cross those things with what's going on in rock and roll in the 50s, what's going on with American music, how
Yeah.
the war, getting into Vietnam in the 60s, all of these things are happening. It is just an incredible time. That period, I mean, for at least 20 years, I would say there's a 20-year span with these characters that is just would make for an incredible series,
And
you
it
know.
also coincides with the thing with movies where they everything got permissive, like around 1970 or 1969, and the nudity
Yes,
started coming in with the exploitation. Of course, you had exploitation all through the 60s and even earlier, but
it was
around
underground.
1970, it got crazy with the drive-in movies and the grindhouse movies, with the nudity and stuff.
Yes, and it was more like in the 60s, it was like kind of private, more underground stuff. And then in the 70s, it just exploded.
Then you
It
had
was
full-blown porn in the 70s,
exactly
in the
not only
mainstream with Deep Throat.
yes, not only that, but even Marvel, with their horror comics, they were just like, screw it. Screw this Comics Code Authority. And they started with like Werewolf by Night and Dracula and all that stuff. And they were just like, yeah, it's dead. These people aren't they don't care,
Well,
you know.
I tell you what happened with that. It was the Spider-Man drug issues in 1971 by
Yeah,
Stan Lee, and he just he went right past the comics code, and
yeah.
everybody saw that. Hey, it's okay. Maybe this code isn't all it's cracked up to be. And so then they rewrote several parts of the comics code in 1971, and it got lenient. And they said that you could use the classic monsters as long as they were portrayed in a classic sense. In other words, they didn't want to get into torture porn or any crazy shit. But
Right.
but they got to use werewolves and vampires.
Vampires.
You know,
Correct. Right. And it's kind of interesting too. In that period, of course, the Comics Code originally, there were, you couldn't even use words like zombie or Satan. That was actually in the code. So son of Satan would have been right out, right? But they
right.
just basically, as you say, they adjusted the code, basically rendering it meaningless. I mean, it
Yeah.
was because at that point, comics, into the 70s and obviously in the 80s, God, it was just an explosion of all kinds of horror comics, sci-fi comics, and they were just completely ignoring the code. There was just no, and there were no distribution issues. That was the whole thing with the comics code, is
Yeah.
that the supposedly the idea was, oh yes, it's the publishers that made their own code. Well, that's not really true. They were forced to make it, because if you tried to publish a comic book, post code during that, or I should say, after the pre-code era, 1955 and on, you would not there, a distributor would not have touched it. That was the whole thing. There would be
Yeah.
no distribution for your comic book. That's how the government put their claws into the entire thing. It was like they had to do it. They were forced. It wasn't as people are trying to say, a voluntary thing. No, it was not. It was either you do this code or you do not get distribution. And that's what the original deal was. So it was draconian, and it was one of the biggest cases of industrial censorship in the history of the United States. There is no
Yeah.
doubt about that. It's huge. So then, of course, as you say, after they did a little bit of adjustment there in the early 70s to the code, it was just like, yeah, okay, we're going to pretty much do kind of what we want. And we're going to use the words. They had zombie, Satan, all the words that were prohibited. They were using them left and right. And, things just changed at that point. But of course, for a good, as we know, from 64, at least from 64 to 70, 71, for that period of time, it was the illustrated horror magazines that took over. That people were like, yes, now we've got the real, the good stuff here,
Yeah.
and it, entailed, of course, eerie, creepy. Uh, I'm not sure when did Nightmare start?
1970.
90s. Okay, so they were right there at the turning point. Of course, you had what I really don't consider the same type of thing with Myron Foss and Eerie Publications. Those were reprints of the pre-code. So it was kind of different. I mean, as far as original stuff goes, it was pretty much eerie and creepy. Even Stanley Morris, his stuff was just reprints of pre-code.
Yeah, yeah.
You
It
know,
was like the low grade Eerie pubs, those Stanleys. I've got a few of those. They're fun.
Oh, they are. Yeah, they're fun. And the thing, of course, about Eerie pubs is that it was the covers.
Yeah.
Myron Foss was just like, just go insane. Do
Throw the
the
gore at it.
exactly, exactly. So that was the fun thing about those covers.
Yeah.
Let's see what a lot we've got some chat happening here. Um, let's take a look. Oh, Michael Taylor says they're still publishing Fangoria. Yes, they are. As a matter of fact, I was amazed to see Michael Dodd as well, that they're still publishing heavy metal. I don't know if you're aware of that, but it's
No.
still going. They're
It,
like issue number 300 and something.
holy crap.
I was just totally astounded to find that out. And see, I saw some issues on eBay. Um, Egg Gnome. Hello, Egg Gnome. Good to see you. Hopefully, they'll hold off for a while. With the current cultural climate, they wouldn't be able to make such a period film or series properly, though. Oh my God, you would have to, basically what you'd have to do is convince Elon Musk to give you like $200 million, which isn't that much for him, and say, look, we need $200 million to do a series, like a 14-part, series on this, on the, the men who made the horror comics. Well, the men and women, for that matter. You
Yeah,
know
there ain't no woke when that was going on, and there would not be a trace of woke in that if it was done properly.
exactly. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, it would be. As a matter of fact, it would. definitely just blow a lot of people's minds. Once Myron Foss got on the screen, man, if he was done right, people would just be like, "What the hell? Who is this insane person?" Jacob says some of those Romita Kirby 70s Marvel horror reprints are simply fantastic covers. Yeah. Oh, absolutely, man. God. They were doing some great reprints and covers, and some original stuff like the early 70s Tower of Shadows, which has got some great original stuff from uh you know uh God, I keep forgetting his name
Got a
there.
couple of Wrightson covers at the end of the run there.
Yeah, it's
Number 8
got
and 9.
yeah, Wrightson is in there. He does some of the stories too. He did a Lovecraft adaptation of Pickman's Model in there, but there was the other guy. He's uh ah
Steranko?
no, he's got three names. Barry Windsor Smith.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
No, he just had
Barry's.
two names back then. There was no Windsor back then.
There was no Windsor. Yeah, he got formal there a little later. That
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. Michael Taylor says Michael Dodd showed his creepy run on his channel. Yeah,
I
man.
only showed up to number 30, though. I got to show the rest of them later on.
Oh, that's excellent. Jacob says just found his channel and sub. Thank you, Michael Taylor. Excellent. Michael Taylor, they're still publishing Mad as well, but they no longer have that foldable back cover. Yeah, I think Mad has long since jumped the shark.
How dare they do away with the foldable back?
I know, and they really, yeah, I don't know what else to say about the new Mad, but
Wally Wood, yep.
yep, oh yeah, yeah,
And
Wally
also,
Wood,
you had
God,
its sister title, Chamber of Darkness, which was great.
yeah, oh, Chamber of Darkness,
In
yeah,
Chamber of Darkness number
absolutely,
4, they had the tryout for the Barry Smith Conan. You know,
yes,
he was
yeah,
called Star the Slayer in that.
right. And I'm not quite sure exactly how it works, Michael Dodd, but they also, like for instance, Marvel came out. They had Chamber of Chills.
Yeah,
Now, of course, that was originally pre-code Harvey comic book Chamber of Chills.
yeah,
Now, I don't know if they were just like, hey, let's use that name. It was a pretty good name. Let's just use it.
yeah. That's
I'm
probably
not.
what happened.
Yeah, I would assume they just went back to the pre-code titles and they were just like, "Hey, Chamber of Chills, that sounds pretty cool. Let's just use that one." You know. But yeah, so the basically there are, I guess what we're getting at here is I think most of what we're going to be talking about today is probably going to be the illustrated magazines. I know that you had a great show yesterday, and for people that are not aware, I'm gonna get your um, I'm gonna put your channel in the chat here because I love that the video you did yesterday on the nightmare issues,
Thanks.
and the one of my favorites of the nightmare. Okay, now where are you? Right here. I'm looking. Oops. Okay, that's odd. Oh, there it is. Got it. Yeah, one of my favorites of the nightmare what is the one Tunnels of Horror. I think it's called Tunnels of Horror. That's the one with that snake looking creature.
Yeah, number 8.
Number 8. That could be it. That's one I had way back. I mean, originally when it came out. That is it, sir. Oh,
Yeah,
here, I'm gonna get you. I'm
yeah.
gonna
I got to work out the glare thing here.
oh now wait a second. It's not letting me for some reason. I don't know why it's oh, solo layout. There we go. Sorry. There we go. Check that out, folks. Tunnels of Horror with that fantastic cover. I had that as a kid. I mean, whenever it came out, isn't that like 1972 ish?
71 maybe.
71. Okay. There we
No,
go.
it is 72. You're right.
Okay. And that's one of my favorite nightmare covers, personal favorites. When I saw that, also too, it's worth mentioning to everybody listening here as well. I think it's a fantastic horror story. Man, the way they did that, the actual story itself on the interior totally delivers. It is freaking, it's great, man. It is a what I would consider a classic from that period of time. Look at that. I mean, that cover. I saw that cover, when I was in the store, and I was like, "What? I've got to pick this up. I've got to get it. It's too good."
Yeah, there's actually a version of that monster on the cover for the book that Al Hewitson wrote for Skywald called The Complete Illustrated History of the Skywald Horror Mood. I've got that book here. I can show that later too.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so here we go. Let's see. Jacob says, "Man, I've never seen that nightmare before. You got to check it out, Jacob. I've seen it on eBay. It's not that expensive. I mean, you can pick up nightmares and psychos. It depends on the condition. I would say between like 20 and $100, depending on the issue.
Yeah, you
So
get a mid-grade copy of that stuff for mostly around $20, but if it's high
yes,
grade, it gets pretty expensive.
it does. It really does. And it's kind of like, well, it's kind of like a lot of Eerie's and Creepies, the
Yeah.
same kind of deal. Um, but in any case, where to begin? Well, maybe we should just do a little, go a bit chronologically and start off with, 1964 and Creepy.
Okay.
I've got a couple of things that I can show first, and then if you've got any stuff, and I guess we'll just kind of combine it, Creepy and Eerie. I mean, that's a 64, 66, and I've got just to show people I do have like an issue or two of you know uh, Eerie publications and Stanley Morse. Got a few of those. So but
Stanley.
so here are, of course, the original. These are the original copies. Creepy number one, and with that great Jack Davis cover. One of my favorite. I just love that cover so much. It is just perfect.
It's fantastic, and it's been homaged so many times, man.
It has. It has. This is one of those iconic covers that keeps coming back. People love to riff on this, you know. And it is. It's such a great, and what a great cover for the first issue of a comic book. I mean, 1964, folks. It is just fantastic. Now I've got Eerie number two, as we were just talking about. Uh, the problem is that getting the ash can, which is Eerie number one, is rather cost prohibitive. Unless you've got like 1,500, 2 grand laying around, you're not going to get it. But this is a very nice copy of Eerie number two. And I dig it. Once again, Frazetta just doing it to it with that fantastic, wizard conjuring the demon or whatever he's conjuring something.
That's the demon. I've got that poster on my wall up in my living room, man.
It's so great.
It's
It is
called
such.
Sorcerer.
Yes. Oh yeah, sorcerer. There we go. Yeah, sorcerer. That's it. Just love it. So those are two very old copies of that. Uh, of the Warren Publishing that I have, and I do have one archive, and that's the first one, and it's got another cover, which is one of my favorites,
Oh
and
yeah.
that is his. This is such a weird Frazetta cover. I mean, it's Dracula or a vampire, whatever. I always just considered it Dracula, but his way of doing it is just so cool. because he's like the character is almost completely black. It's only his face that you can see. It's really great. Like his face is just so demonic looking. It's
It's beautiful.
fantastic.
And it's got that splash of color in the background there that really brings it out, you know?
Yeah, it just makes it pop. And so this collects I'm sorry, creepy number 1 through 5, and they didn't screw around, folks. Out of the gate, one thing I love about these archives too is that, of course, they reprint uh, the covers to all 5 issues, and they do it really well. I mean, they don't. Dark Horse really, they did such a great job with the reproductions. Another one of my favorite creepy covers,
Yeah.
right there, the werewolf. God, once again, Frazetta just striking, and the art, as you can see, the interior art. You've got all of these people: Reed Crandall, Frank Frazetta. Frazetta's line work is just insane. God, it's mind-boggling just seeing his line work.
Yeah, that werewolf story, that is mind-blowing, man.
It is. It is. The guy, it's just fantastic. He did very little pre-code stuff. He did do some pre-code, and he did a couple of memorable covers during the pre-code era, and he must have been extremely young at that time, you know. But then, of course, you have this fantastic, God, the opener, Voodoo, Joe Orlando,
Yeah.
which is Orlando is another one of those guys that just mind boggling. And I love it. One of the things I love about it, of course, it started off, and for years it was black and white. It was all the interiors were black and white, and then they introduced color, some color stories later on, and got fancier. But man, seeing these artists, uh, the lineup of the artists, like for instance, this one, issue number 1, Reed Crandall, Jack Davis, George Evans, Frank Rosetta, Gray Morrow, Joe Orlando, Angelo Torres, Al Williamson, Maurice Whitman. All of these guys are like tops, as far as art goes. It's it's just amazing, the lineup there. So they came, they out of this, out of the gate, Creepy was just killing it. In my opinion, they were just fantastic. Uh, and certainly, if you can get early issues in particular, I think they're it's well worth it. If you can find, I mean, you can still pick up. That's the great thing about it, uh, Michael, is that you can get early issues of Creepy and Eerie. They're not that expensive,
No.
strangely enough. Like
And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. The Warren Warehouse. But because when Jim Warren had all of those printed up, uh, he made sure that a certain large number of those went to the Warren Warehouse for back issues. And that's the reason we still have all of these thousands of copies in the marketplace. And that's the reason prices are reasonable.
hmm,
If it weren't for Jim Warren and his warehouse, that stuff would be almost impossible to find now.
yeah, I mean, and they're everywhere. Like for instance, I had picked up I was, I think this was North Carolina. I was in North Carolina. I went to an antique mall, and there were just like dozens of these sellers. And this one guy was selling magazines and comic books and stuff. And he had a stack of Eries, like, I don't know, I think they started issues 8 through 15. I picked up issue 10 for $1.
Yeah.
and this is just like 5 years ago, and it's in
Wow.
awesome shape. I mean, it is like I would say I'd rate it like at least an 8.0. I was just like, good lord, what the hell,
That's
you
like a
know?
$50 book, man.
Oh, easily, So it,
That's
it is true, folks. You can find these things if you go out, go to your local antique malls, your antique stores, whatever, thrift shops. Chances of finding issues of Eerie and Creepy are high. There's no doubt about it because they did print a lot of the print runs on these. Many of these issues were really high, as Michael says, and so they're just simply not rare. That's all there is to it. Now, even God, even I mean, it's hard to believe. Like Creepy. Number one here I have, and it's in awesome shape. There's no doubt about it. It's 9.0, close to at least in and around 9.0. It's in great shape. I I bought it like this particular copy. I think 6 years ago, 7 years ago, for $50.
Yeah.
There you go. And you can find these top, really high grade now for I don't know, 150, something like that. They're
Man, if it weren't for the Warren warehouse, that creepy number one and high grade would be like $3,000 or $4,000 now.
probably, yeah, yeah. I would tend to agree with you on that. It's incredible, man. Uh, let's go. Let's get back to the chat for a second. Um, we got Shadowhawk Talks. Hello, my good friend,
Oh,
Hail Horror Mike, and the chat. Hello, sir. Great stuff, Mike. Thank you, sir. Shadowhawk. Hello, Michael Dodd.
Michael dead. Hey man, I'm not
Yeah,
dead yet.
Michael Judge Dredd. Or, I don't know what he's saying there. Jacob, high grade Frazetta copies, I know, pull a little penny if you want a near mint. I've been bidding auctions that are going over $300, but still cheap compared to what they are and their counterpart. Yeah, that's the whole thing. They are. They're simply, I mean, and I guess luckily, like for instance, it's kind of funny, like those archive books, the one that like the Dark Horse, some of those are even more expensive. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they're actually I mean, and I'm not saying, the Dark Horse books are high quality. They're really good and they're
Yeah,
worth the money, you
they are.
know. But I see those things, some of those archives on sale for like $150 on eBay now.
Whoa.
I'm just like, whoa, okay. That creepy shark cover is incredible. It is. It's the Great Corbin, man. That issue is fantastic. It's another great horror story too. It really delivers. God, um, damn spell incorrect. Yes,
It's
indeed.
okay, man.
Okay, so I kind of broke it open a bit there with some creepy. And Michael, so what do you have in the pipeline there?
Okay, I'm going to show those nightmares that I showed on that video first, but also I want to show this because you reminded me of this when you showed that werewolf
Okay.
story that Frazetta did. This is a bag of monster figures that I made. I made a limited number of these, like 13 of them back in 2016. And if you recognize, I'm backwards here. If you recognize this figure here, I based it on the drawing that Frazetta did in that werewolf
Oh
story.
yes, yes, indeed. Yeah, I recognize that. No, that's totally cool.
And
And
on the
so,
back, of course, I had to put the Eerie Pubs-ish crazy stuff.
those are great.
And
That is,
here's the peg hole, and the dude, that's the guy's eye socket, and his eyeballs coming out there.
oh, that's excellent. And so now, where did the actual figures come from? Are those all little like classic monster figures?
Yeah, you got Frankenstein and a Wolfman and different ones. I threw some zombies in there. they put out a set of figures in a big tube. They call it Big Bucket of Monsters, and you can still get them. They're like $20, and you get like, I don't know, 100 of them in there or something.
Oh,
And
wow.
I put a bunch of them out in these bags, and I drew that header card and had it copied, and just stapled it to it like they used to do with rack toys.
Oh, you're right.
I just
That
did it for
looks.
my collection, and I sold some of them on eBay. I still have like two left that I'm gonna sell on eBay. But about 5 or 6 years ago, I sold the rest of them on eBay, and I put them on there for a minimum bid of $16.66,
It,
and almost all of them went for around 40 or $50 a piece, in auction. And one dude ended up giving $150 for one of those damn things.
whoa.
I couldn't believe it, man.
Wow. That's fantastic, man. Egg Gnome says, sadly, I was a kid at the time of those printings, but but was at the whim of the rural Bible Belt adults. I was lucky to get a gold key comic when we got into town. Yeah, well, that was, yeah, that's the whole thing. Of course, you know what's really funny about that though. I mean, yeah, I I grew up. I mean, we were living in Mississippi until 1971 ish, somewhere around there. Then we moved to California, but we were in the high desert in a small town, Lancaster, California, and there wasn't much going on there. But that's when I discovered, for instance, the Eerie publications, because they still got up there. They were like, you'd find them in a store, like just on a magazine rack or something, just it happened. They just kind of spread out, you know. Jacob says, "Damn, I like those, Michael."
Thanks, man.
Yeah, those are totally cool, man. Shadowhawk Talk says that is cool, and indeed they are cool. Oh, here we go. Here we go with the nightmares, folks.
Yeah, this is number one.
Woo!
Let me try to get this glare under control here. The
Yeah, that looks
mylar
good.
really cranks the glare up. But anyway, this cover is by a guy named Brendan Lynch, and there is the heap, of course, giving some a guy from a cycle gang some trouble there. Of course, he's just in the background, but
That is great.
that's from
That's a great
1970.
a great lead off for the series.
Yeah, and here is number two. This is by Boris Vallejo.
Oh yeah.
Now, I did a video on these, and you can actually see the cover. The way I have to do on these live streams down here, I have lighting problems, but that's not like that on my videos. So if you want to watch videos of this that I do, you can see them very well. Anyway, yeah, this is a great cover by Vallejo. And
Yeah, that's cool.
this has, I've got all the artists written down. I'm not going to go through all of those, it'd take too long. But some of the main artists in these were Ross Andrew and Mike Esposito later or early on with the Heap stories.
Yeah, and Ross Andrew and Mike Esposito were a team for many years. They actually put out their own pre-code comic book. I don't know
Yeah,
if you're aware of, yeah, that back in, it was what the hell was that called? I want to say it was Mr. Mystery. They did a ton of those issues together, as I think they called themselves Mike Ross.
yeah,
They kind of, there was a signature or something that they used there, but they were a team for many years.
yeah. Well, they did a lot of stuff for DC in the '60s. I think they worked on the Metal Men a lot.
Yeah,
And I'm sure that Ross Andrew did Spider-Man for a while, but I don't
yep,
remember if Esposito inked him or not. Now, this is number three. This is another Boris Vallejo cover. Great Neanderthal there.
yeah, that's cool.
And that has some art by Tom Sutton in it as Sean Todd. He had to go by a pseudonym because Jim Warren laid the law down that if you work for us, you don't work for anybody else. So when you
Wow,
moonlight, you had to call yourself something else. And his kids were named Sean and Todd, I believe. So he called himself Sean Todd when he worked for Skywall.
that's great.
And here's number 4. This is by Harry Rosenbaum, or Rosenbaum, I guess.
That's great. Phantom of the Rock era. That is hilarious.
Yeah, I'm having trouble finding the sweet spot here. There we go. That's
Oh,
not too.
that's good.
And
Yeah,
that
they were.
was artwork by the great Ralph Reese, and several, and also Tom Sutton did some work in that, and Tom Palmer.
Yeah, the one thing about Nightmare too is that they were very good with the cleavage.
Yeah,
You know, they did
had
a
some
pretty
hot
good job
babes,
there. Oh
really
yes,
hot babes. This is number 5. This is Boris Vallejo's cover. Got more Ralph Reese, Rich Buckler, Bruce Jones, Tom Sutton as Sean Todd, Jack
nice.
Katz, Doug Wildey did some in this. You know, he's the one that is responsible for Johnny Quest for Hanna-Barbera. And number 6, great Jeff Jones cover, and art by
Yeah,
Mike
that is
Maluga.
cool.
Uh, Doug Wildey did some in this too, and Pat Boyette.
Nice.
Always loved Jeff Jones' work.
Yeah, he's just fantastic.
This cover number 7 is by Alberto Pujolar. Probably
That is.
butchering that. Go ahead.
It's a rather iconic cover. I remember that from way back in the day. You know,
Yeah.
uh, I just don't remember like that his name. Yeah, he's one of those artists that just doesn't immediately ring a bell, but he was around. He was doing stuff. No
Uh-huh.
doubt about it. I mean, they had it was like South American and also Philippine artists that were in Nightmare and Psycho, I believe.
I think they used a lot of Spanish guys too.
Spanish. Yeah.
I believe so. Uh, this, of course, we talked about this earlier. This cover is
Yes.
by Vincente Sagreus, and that has work in it by Pablo Marcos, Sid Shores as Jim Elder, Dan
Wow.
Atkins, Bruce Jones, Chick Stone, Farron Sostris.
Sid Shores is another kind of a big name from the pre-code era as well. You know, he
Yeah.
obviously had been doing work for decades when he did that, when he did the stuff for Nightmare.
Now that I kind of joked when I did the video, this is a key though. I joked about getting it slabbed. If I say anything about getting something slabbed, it's a joke. But anyway, this is number 9. This cover is by Jose Mireles, and this is the first appearance of the Shoggoths, which is an ongoing series in Skywald. And of course, I got that from H.P. Lovecraft. And then the first Gargoyles, and that was another ongoing series. And this it has interior art by Pablo Marcos, and this even has a Bernie Wrightson illustration in it.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So Michael Dodd, a question for you: how many illustrated magazines, comic books, and so forth would you say you that are have I guess I would say that contain Lovecraft or Lovecraftian art in them?
Yeah, I missed the very first part of that. Did you say how many?
How many? Yes.
Yeah, your audio kind of fogs
Oh,
out.
sorry about that.
It's not your fault, man. It's just the way the internet is. But I just off the top of my head, probably well, a lot of these skywalls do, and you know, there you have the Lovecraft influence on so many stories in Warren. Also,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
couldn't, maybe 200, maybe, I don't know.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I was going to say what we should do one of these days. We should do a Lovecraft episode.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean he's definitely worthy of it. People love, they love Lovecraft.
I
Indeed.
do. I'm a huge Lovecraft
Oh,
fan.
I yes, I
I
am
listen to
too.
those freaking audiobooks over and over of At the Mountains of Madness and Shadow over
Yes.
Innsmouth, and just love that stuff, man.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Okay, here's number 10. Yeah, yeah, there you go. That's number 10. That cover's by Ken Kelly. That's early work by Ken Kelly.
Wow.
And of course, he studied under Frazetta.
Oh, yes.
I think he was married to Frazetta's sister, maybe. He's related to Frazetta somehow by marriage, I believe.
Wow.
But anyway, art by Pablo Marcos and some Bernie Wrightson in this, and a lot of these other Spanish names, and also some Basil Wolverton is in this.
Incredible.
Probably just an illo, but still. Okay, here's number 11. Now, this cover is by favorite of mine. He's credited as JAD often, but his name is Jose Antonio Domingo.
Okay.
And just look
That
at
rings.
that, how smooth that is. Look at those zombies back behind that guy there.
Yeah, that's a really
And,
cool cover.
yeah, it's got interior art by Pablo Marcos, Antonio Burrell. Wayne Howard does a story in this, famous from Charlton. Here's number 11, or actually, that was 11. This is number 12. This cover is by Vicente Sagreus.
Nice.
I am dead. I am buried. I am dead and yet alive in this tomb swamp. I need your help. You must help bury me.
That is great.
It's crazy stuff. Let's see. Got some art by Pablo Marcos, Chick Stone, Villanova, Antonio Burrell, Farron Sostris.
Yeah, Chick Stone got around, man.
Yeah.
Good God. Michael Taylor says, I remember those cool nightmare mags from your video the other day. Yes, indeed. Shadowhawk Talk says, oh, yeah, Lovecraft is a master. Absolutely. Egg Gnome says, my vote for more Lovecraft. I think that's going to happen.
Yeah. I'm for it. Now, this is a beautiful cover here.
Yeah, that's great. The corpse.
Yeah, this is number 13. This cover is by Vicente Sagreus. And this has artwork by the Spanish guys. I mean, he was almost exclusively using the Spanish artists by now, but they were so good.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
This was when Al Hewitson was. Yeah, these old labels haven't switched these out and replaced them in a while, and sometimes they dry out and the flaps come up. But I can't use regular tape on these Mylar bags because you can't get the stuff loose and it makes a mess.
Yes. Yeah, that's a problem with those.
Okay, here's number 14. This has got a crazy cover by Villanova. It's the Earth being destroyed.
Yeah, that's great.
And let's see if anybody noteworthy on the artist here. Jack Katz, Bruce Jones, Ricardo Villamonte did a 2-page story featuring the creature from the Black Lagoon in this. And here's number 15. Here's a great Ken Kelly cover.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt this is based on the Christopher Lee Dracula.
Absolutely. That is great.
Beautiful. Look at the moon behind him there, man, and gorgeous stuff.
Yeah, that is a beauty.
And we're getting into some of the babyage now. This is number 16. Here again, this is by JAD or Jose Antonio Domingo. And he's got a really lush, full style, but it's really fine, It's like
Yeah,
fine
it's
art, man.
cool. That's a great cover. God. The all original monster special.
Horror Mood, a Skyward
Wow.
Horror Mood publication. Now we've got number 17. Now, this is my favorite Skywall cover. This is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. That is a beauty.
The combination of the color, the blue background, and the girl being so gorgeous and that monster being on that chain there. I mean, that speaks to me, man.
Yeah, that is just fantastic.
Now, this is by a guy named Sebastia Bawada. And he is a Spanish artist. He did over 1,000 paperback covers in the 50s and
Wow.
60s. And this guy just knocks it out of the park every time.
That is just a gorgeous cover.
Oh, and this issue also has a Christopher Lee interview in it.
Oh, nice. Shadowhawk Talk says beautiful stuff. Jacob says the baby just woke up, fellas. I'll catch you the rest on the rewind. Thanks for a great show, Horror Mike. Thank you, Jacob. Thanks for being here, man.
See you, Jacob.
Shadowhawk Talk said whoa to one of those covers.
Yeah, probably that 17. Here's number 18. This cover again is by Jose Antonio Domingo, is JAD. And
that is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's just gorgeous, man. Very lush. Now, these last few issues just had beautiful covers.
He was talking about number 17. I agree, Shadowhawk. That's an amazing cover.
Yeah, here's number 19. Now, this is another one by Sebastian Bowata. And that, it looks like his take on maybe the creature from the Black Lagoon or a similar type.
Or a little combination of that and Horror of Party Beach. Maybe.
Yeah.
Got a little bit of that going.
Yep. And here's another great cover by Bowata, number 20. You know,
nice.
Like I said in my video, this is a Monster Magazine cover, but this is fine art.
Yes, indeed, it is. These guys are just
beautiful,
absolutely amazing artists.
And this features John Byrne's first professional work.
Okay, that could be a total key issue.
It is.
Michael Dodd.
It's pretty expensive.
Yeah. That's kind of like, Dr. Weird. The first issue of Dr. Weird, 1970, Texas Trio, was Jim Starlin's first comic book cover.
Yeah.
And that's an absolute, what I would consider a key comic book issue. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Now here's number 21. It says the 1974 Nightmare Summer Special, but it's also just number 21.
That's nice.
Yeah, this cover is by Jose Morales.
Ah, yes.
And Jose Morales. Is, nearly an all reprint issue here. Jack Katz, Frank Giacoia, Mike Kaluta, Tom Sutton as David Cook, Sid Shores as David Cook. Both Tom Sutton and Sid Shores did a cover. I guess Shores did the inks, and they credited the art to David Cook. You know, it had the moonlight because of Jim Warren's edicts.
Oh, yes, of course.
And it also has a reprint by Jeff Jones and another one by Doug Wildey and another one by Pablo Marcos in that issue.
Shadowhawk Talks, Hot Girl with Panther always works. Yes.
Yeah.
Also, Michael Taylor says, maybe in the future video, you guys can show Monster Times. I've got a couple of issues. Also, there was, what was Jim Steranko's media scene?
Yeah.
And comic scene, I
started out as comic scene and it turned into media scene, I believe.
Yeah. Those, what would you describe those as? Like newspaper style genre magazines?
They were like tabloids, I guess.
Like tabloid style genre magazines. Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I just meant the format. Yeah, I've got one that's the cover of it, and the main article on it is from Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger.
Wow.
But that's the only one of those I have. I don't have just the one issue of that. Now, the Monster Times, I'm set on that. I got all those.
Oh, wow.
Here's number 22. This has a cover by Salvador Faba.
That's a great cover. Look at that.
Yeah, and me and Michael Taylor were discussing this in the comments in my video. And this kind of resembles, not exactly by any means, but kind of resembles the Hammer Werewolf from Curse of the Werewolf.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely has.
The puffy sleeve shirt, that's torn and all that.
I'm sure he probably was inspired by that. it's a very three-dimensional cover. Like he's
Uh-huh.
just popping right out, coming at you.
Right. And this is the last issue. This is number 23, and it's also the 1975 Nightmare Winter special. And this cover is by Vicente Sagreus, and Melo Centron did the inset painting up here of this zombie guy that kind of reminds me of Beast of Blood a little bit.
Wow, that's great. I love the monster with the Santa Claus mask. That
Yeah.
is hilarious.
Look at those pop eyes, man.
Uh, that is great. Oh my god, that's freaking awesome.
And they got a couple more here. This is the 1972 annual number one,
Oh, okay.
and this is all original. This did not have reprints. They started the reprints later on, but this cover is by Vicente Sagreus, and it's got some Bruce Jones work in it.
Oh, cool.
And then we've got the 1973 Nightmare Winter special, and that's Ken Kelly painting for the cover.
Oh yeah.
And that's got all new stories too. It's Pablo Marcos. It's got Dennis Fujitaki. It's got Gay and Wilson did some text illos in it.
Very cool. Michael Taylor says the Monster Times was a fun newspaper. Indeed.
Yeah, it's great.
Shadowhawk Talks definitely similar, talking about the werewolf. And he says, Zombie Santa, those eyes. Yeah.
And here's the last one. This is the 1974 yearbook. And this is, well, let's see now. It's This cover is by Vicente Sagreus. Looks like it's got one new story by Jose Martin Soria, Bob Martin. And it's got a reprint by Bruce Jones, another one by Ralph Reese and Dennis Fujitaki, Doug Wildy, Tom Sutton, Carlos Garzon. So yeah, it's full of reprints pretty much.
Very nice.
And those are all of the Nightmares. That's the entire run.
Now, how are you on Psychos?
Yeah, I got all those too.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's.
So yeah, you can go ahead with something there, and when it
Okay.
comes to my round, I'll do the Psychos.
Groovy. All right. Now, I'm just going to go down here to Eerie now. Now, these are the collected Dark Horse. This is volume 3, for example, which collects Eerie 11 through 15. I always loved this cover. Just one of my favorite Eerie covers of the diver and the giant sea beast back
Yeah,
there. That always just totally, I don't know, as a kid, of course I had to immediately get this one uh when I found it. It's just one of those iconic covers that is just absolutely amazing. Amazing cover. And of course this one. Now this is volume 5, collecting 23 through 27, with that fantastic, god, insane cover of Frazetta's with the uh, panther in the foreground. God, just love that cover. Another Corbin for the win, volume 16, collecting 75 through 80. Those colors are just, they're practically black light. It's just absolutely amazing. It's like black light without the black light.
yeah, and that girl is supposed to be a scientist in that story. She goes back in
Yes.
time. Is she not the hottest freaking scientist you've ever seen in your life?
She's the hottest. Totally.
She looks like Candy Samples, only really trim and buff, and young. Uh, in like the Corbin version of Candy Samples, all blowed out.
Exactly. Exactly. The colors are absolutely amazing. I just, it's one thing about the Corbin art is that he just that combination, his line work and the colors just blow me away, man. And just getting back to this one, another one of my favorites. I've got this issue, and it just, man, once again, even though, as you can see, it's, you know, kind of like a practically duotone for a lot of it. It just pops. He
Yeah.
just adds a little bit of color here to the female zombie. Once again, extremely buxom female zombie. He he always did that.
I
He
love
always,
Corbin.
I know. In the werewolf face. Now this is kind of getting this one. It strangely also reminds me of, like, one of those typical um, Eerie publications covers where, like, monsters are fighting monsters, and
Yeah.
something's going on, and obviously they're trying to get werewolf here. This vampire's got a hold of them.
Hey, you know who that vampire looks like, man? He looks like freaking Richard Nixon.
He does, and it could be he could have been riffing right there on Richard Nixon. The
Millhouse.
the mummy's got a hold of him. The woman, the buxom zombie chick, is like ripping his clothes. I mean, they've really got they've got a thing for this werewolf, and I think that's the story, right? Is like they're all of these creatures are going after the werewolf, as I recall. I'd
I
have
guess
to
so.
to read the story again, but once again, it's like one of this may have been an all Corbin issue. They started to do that where it would just be like wall to wall Corbin, and they'd have like one or two color stories, in there, and just absolutely fantastic. There was also a great magazine. It only lasted like 5 issues. It was called Comics International.
I got him.
Oh, you've got those.
Yeah, those are
Holy,
great, man. It reprints all those color stories that Warren did, the Corbin
yes.
Poe adaptations, and man, it's just great.
Hmm. Those are fantastic.
Yeah.
Once again, I mean, they've gone up. They've gone up on eBay. I've noticed a little bit, especially in the higher grades.
Yeah.
They're definitely sought after. But and I think that's it. Yeah.
You froze, man. Hey, Mike, you froze. I don't know what happens if you reboot, being in StreamYard. I don't. Okay, I guess he wants me to go, so we'll go with Psycho. This number one. This cover is by Brendan Lynch. This has artwork by Gray Morrow, Norman Nodell, Vince Alacia, Steve Hickman, Everett Raymond Kinsler, or uh, Paul Reinman, Alvin Hollingsworth. Now, this also features reprints. It has one called City of the Living Dead that's reprinted from uh, that is Avon 1952, and Eerie number 5, Avon 1952, and Phantom Witch Doctor number 1 from 1952. It also has a reprint from Eerie number 11, 1953, two of them from that, and Eerie number 9, 1952, with alterations. That was Avon as well. A lot of reprints in that one. And here is this is all new stuff. This is number 2. I bought one of these off the rack. This certainly is not it, but I bought it off the rack back in the day. This is the first appearance of the Skywald version of the Heap. This cover is by Hector Barella. Artwork by Ross Andrew, Mike Esposito, Jack Katz, Rich Buckler, Tom Palmer, Steve Hickman, Tom Sutton as Sean Todd, doing the moonlighting again. Dan Adkins, Chick Stone, Serg Morin, and Frank Giacoia. That's from May 1971. That first issue was from January 1971, which means it went on sale probably 2 or 3 months before that at the end of 1970. Those publication dates are always, they always go on sale 2 or 3 months prior to those. This is number 3. I don't know if what's actually going on here, but the chat, am I still on, guys? I mean, Mike can't really put any, I can't see the chat. So I don't know if I'm just talking to myself here or don't really know what's going on. I think I'm just going to wait until Mike comes back in so I'll know what the score is here, because I don't want to just sit here and talk to myself for nothing. And you guys might be seeing and hearing me, but I don't know. I don't even know if I need to log out and him restart it. I don't know. I guess he's having to reboot his computer. And I'm not sure how that's affecting. I mean, I haven't been doing streams with people for long, and I'm not really sure how that's affecting the show. But we'll get it straightened out, and I'll show that stuff again. Okay. I'm in StreamYard, but I don't know if I'm still on YouTube. Maybe I ought to check that. Okay, now I'm on YouTube. Now I can see. Let me go back to.
Now I'm on YouTube. Now I can see.
And I've got a delay, and I'm going to mute my YouTube, and I'm going to go back to StreamYard. And okay, now I'm assuming you guys saw all that, so I will pick up where I left off. Let's see, number 3. I don't think I got all this one. This is Boris Vallejo cover. Art by Tom Sutton as Sean Todd. Inks by Dan Adkins. He inked it as Sean Todd. That's just credited to Sean Todd because they're moonlighting from Warren. Serg Morin, Ross Andrew, Mike Esposito, Chick Stone, Bill Everett, Ernie Cohen, or Cologne as it were, as Jack Purcell. And that starts the Frankenstein story by Tom Sutton. That series was fun in the early issues of Psycho. And number 4, this cover is by Ken Kelly. And that has Frankenstein in the Heap in it. This This has art by Larry Todd, Ross Andrew, Mike Esposito, Bruce Jones, Rich Buckler, Serg Morin, Tom Sutton as David Cook, Sid Shores, Tom Sutton as himself, Ernie Colon, Dan Adkins, Dennis Fujitaki, that's his first pro work, and also Tom Sutton as Sean Todd, Jack Abel, and Bill Everett. Here's number 5. Cover by Boris Vallejo. Pretty cover. This has art by Bill Everett, Ralph Reese, Doug Wildey, Boris Vallejo, Ross Andrew, Mike Esposito, Serg Morin, Rich Buckler, Tom Sutton as Sean Todd, and Jack Abel. And here is number 6. This cover is by Vicente Sagreus. It's kind of freaky, but I really like it. Art by Pablo Marcos, Pat Boyette, Jeff Jones, Dan Adkins, Ross Andrew. It has a couple of pre-production sketches by Ray Harryhausen in Seventh Voyage of Sinbad text article. Gus St. Anthony and Tom Sutton as Sean Todd and Bill Everett. Here's number 7. This cover is by Vicente Sagreus. The Asylum of Frozen Hell. And it's got the Heap chapter in here. This art is by Pablo Marcos, Domingo Gomez, Dennis Fujitaki, Bill Everett, Sid Shores, Pablo Marcos. There we are.
Hey, testing. Can you hear me, Michael?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Cool.
Yeah, I just carried on.
Thank you, sir.
And this also has Pablo Marcos as Jim Elder, Steve Englehart, Vince Coletta, Jim Penkoski, and Ramon Torrance. It's number 7.
Yeah, just to let you guys know, if I'm out again, it's the blue screen of death. Okay, I've been having problems today, so that's what's going to happen. You know, it could happen anytime.
It sounds like that Asus is about ready for the computer graveyard, man.
Yeah, I've had it for like 12 years, so it's about ready.
Yeah, I got rid of an Asus before I got this Dell. That was a little over a year ago. It was acting up too.
Yeah.
Here's number 8. This cover is by Enrique Torres. And it's fabulous cover, and I'm pretty sure that he modeled this female on a still from the Hammer production, The Mummy Shroud. That actress name in that movie is Maggie Kimberly. And I'm not certain who he modeled I guess that's a vampire on in the background there, but it's a great cover. Let's see. Oh, it's a lobby card, that Maggie Kimberly photo. Anyway, interior art by Domingo Gomez, Felipe De La Rosa, Pablo Marcos, Ross Andrew, Mike Esposito, Wes Zarenius, Ramon Torrance, Francisco Javier Gonzalez Villanova, just as Villanova. Gee, I wonder why. Okay, here is number 9. This is from November of 72. This cover is by Domingo Gomez. And this character is kind of infamous with Skywald readers, the Slither Slime Man. Interior art by Pablo Marcos, Ramon Torrance, Ernie Colon, Villanova, Felipe De La Rosa, Cesar Lopez, and Wes Zarenius, and Jeff Jones. And number 10. This cover is by Pablo Marcos. The painting and the inset illustration is by Fernando Fernandez. Now, that inset illustration has to be based on Paul Naschy's werewolf character, Valdemar Daninsky. And I'm not sure which movie he took that from. Maybe the first one. Here in the States, it was called Frankenstein's Bloody Terror. But the real name of it was The Mark of the Wolfman, or La Marca del Hombre Lobo. And so anyway, interior art, Pablo Marcos Villanova, Melo Centron, Jose Rubio, just as Rubio, and Wes Zerenius. You still with us, Mike?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, cool. Here's number 11. Fernando did this painting. It's a cool swamp scene, voodoo ambiance there. This interior art by Felipe de la Rosa, Pablo Marcos, Antonio Burrell, Wes Zerenius, Villanova, Jesus Manuel Pena-Rego as Suso, alias Jesus Suso Rego, and Jose Gual. And number 12, this cover is by Jeff Jones, the great Jeff Jones painting. And interior art, Jose Gual, Cesar Lopez, Felipe de la Rosa, Pablo Marcos, Jack Katz, Vince Coletta, and Villanova. Yeah, we couldn't even escape Vince Coletta over here. He had to show up and scratch out a few lines. Mess up somebody's artwork, I guess. I shouldn't be too rough on the guy. Here's number 13. The 13 Dead Things. This cover is by Vicente Segreras. Art by Domingo Gomez, Felipe de la Rosa, Pablo Marcos, Jose Rubio as Rubio, Villanova, Ferran Sostras, Michael Kaluta, Manel Ferrer as Manuel, and Melo Centron. And this has an appearance of the heap in it. This is the last story featuring the heap. And Al Hewitson hated the heap. And he was the man in charge at that point. So he suffered the heap as long as he could. I always liked the Skywald heap. I grew up with him, so I liked him. But Hewitson hated him. So anyway, here's number 14. This is a classic cover. The Classic Creeps.
Yeah, that is great.
That's by Ken Kelly. Art by Melo Centron, Suso, Francisco Cueto, I guess, Ricardo Villamonte, Jay Lynch, Felipe de la Rosa, Antonio Burrell, Don Heck, Mike Esposito, Jose Rubio, and Mauro Nava. Here is number 15. This cover is by Vicente Segreras. Special all ghoul horror issue.
Yes.
Vicente Segreras on the cover. Interior art, Melo Centron, Jesus Duran as D. Duran. Jose Gual, Mauro Nava, Ferran Sostras, Amador Garcia, Jesus Suso Rego, and Felipe de la Rosa. Now, here is a cool one. This is number 16. This has the old vampire lady.
Oh, yeah.
That's another one of the little weird characters
that is
have.
Weird.
This cover is by Domingo Gomez. And art by Jesus Duran, Ricardo Villamonte, Mauro Nava, Domingo Gomez, Jose Rubio, Jesus Suso Rego, Felipe de la Rosa. And here's number 17. This cover is by Faba. Sign right there, if I can get it on.
Oh, yeah.
Baba.
Yeah, now interesting because that looks like he's riffing on the classic picture of Dorian Gray.
Yeah,
The face there, of course, at the end of the film.
right. Yeah, this art in this one is by Domingo Gomez, Ricardo Villamonte, Jose Cardona, Marl Nava, Felipe de la Rosa, Antonio Burrell, Emilio Bernardo, and Luis Collado. Now you can tell how heavy they are on the Spanish artists, but it really worked for Al Hewitson, man. I mean, they turned out some great product, you know.
Yeah, great covers.
Here's number 18. This cover is by Villanova.
Wow. Okay, it's like a. Is that supposed to be like a puzzle?
It's like a puzzle.
Whoa.
Yeah. The rats are starving and you are their victim. They always put you in a horror mood. They wanted to put you right in the scene, man.
Oh yes.
This cover, like I said, Villanova. The art on the inside, Ricardo Villamonte, Jesus Suso Rego, Pablo Marcos, Felipe de la Rosa, Cesar Lopez, Melo Centron, Alfonso Font, Antonio Burrell. And this features the promo for the Saga of the Victims. That was an ongoing story for Skywall, the Saga of the Victims. And here is, yeah, that wouldn't fly these days at all, but
Yeah.
it was fun back in the day. This is number 19. Now, this is another fantastic cover by Sebastian Bawada. Can you guess
cool.
who you used for models for those characters there, Mike?
It's Let me take a look at that vampire. Uh, that looks like, pardon me, but your teeth are in my neck. Your fangs are in my neck. That fearless vampire killers. Am I correct?
I couldn't hear that. You went out right
Oh, the vampire kind of looks like the fearless vampire killers.
Yeah, that's it. That's Ferdy Main was the actor. I think Count Krolak was the name of the character. What about the girl? Do you remember what the girl is reminds you of?
No, no. She looks familiar, but I can't place the face with the name.
I think it's based on Veronica Carlson from Dracula Has Risen from the Grave.
Ah, okay.
But just look how beautiful that cover is, man. Look at, I mean, the mist and the coach off in the distance there in the castle. I mean, Gothic horror just drips off of this thing, man.
Yes. Yeah, that is totally cool.
Okay, interior art, Domingo Gomez, Pablo Marcos, Ricardo Villamonte, Alfonso Font, Jesus Duran, Jesus Susorego, Emilio Bernardo, Jose Martin Sori. And this has the last appearance of Lady Satan from Scream.
Scream.
Yeah, Scream is the third title that Skywall did.
Of course.
It also has a letter from Christopher Lee.
Whoa.
Okay, here's number 20. This cover is by Faba.
Oh, that's pretty grisly.
Yeah. And interior art, Cesar Lopez, Jose Cardona, Antonio Burrell, Melo Centron, Ricardo Villamonte, Luis Collado. This has an ad for the 1974 Nightmare Yearbook and Tomb of Horror, which they never published Tomb of Horror.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Let's see. The Human Gargoyles Part 7 is in this, called The Freaks. And that's continued from Nightmare number 19. And the next episode of the Human Gargoyles is in Nightmare number 20. And that's moved to Psycho for this issue only. And has an ad for subscriptions for Skywall Mags. Actually, it's not an ad, it's a disclaimer. It says subs for Skywall Mags no longer available. that reflects Skywald's uncertain future as Marvel's distributor ate up valuable shelf space on magazine stands.
Whoa.
So, as great as the Marvel Monster magazines were, they pretty much ran Skywald off the stands and some other monster mags as well. This is number 29. Sorry, number 21. This is a wild cover by Prieto Muriana. Interior art, Sanho Kim. He did some work for Charlton back in the day. Cesar Lopez, Jose Cardona, Jack Katz, Jack Abel, Gene Day, Luis Collado, Jose Cardona on the inside. Fulgencio Cabrizio is Tony Cabrizio. They started to kind of try to anglicize some of those names toward the end there, but I guess they were wanting to make it more more reader friendly for this country. I don't know.
Oh, maybe.
Here is number 22. This cover is by Prieto Muriana too. It's one of those pastiche kind of bits and pieces covers. It's cool though. I really like it.
Yeah, it is pretty groovy.
And the interior art by Cesar Lopez, Virgil Finley, portrait of Lovecraft.
Wow,
H.P.
nice.
Lovecraft's concept sketch of Cthulhu. This is by H.P. Lovecraft. It's a concept
right.
sketch
Yeah,
of
his
Cthulhu.
classic.
Tom
Yes.
Sutton, Dan Adkins, Pat Boyette, Raymond Torrance, Ralph Reese, Pablo Marcos, Doug Wildey, Serge Morin, Gene Day. And this reprints, now the reprints are starting to hit at this point. This is up into 1974 late. But this reprints Psycho 2 and 4 and 1972 annual and Nightmare, stories from Nightmare numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6. One new story called Die Frankenstein's Monster. It's not continued from Frankenstein Book 2 by Sutton. It's different, but rather a continuation of Hewitson's take on the character, begun in Scream number 7. And the girl's face there, who does that remind you of there, Mike?
Boy, it's not ringing a bell. Who do you think that is?
I think it's Erica Blanc or Erica Blank from the Devil's Nightmare, where she plays the succubus.
Oh, okay.
She was
Okay, well,
also in other stuff. She was in a lot of Euro horror back in the day. The Red-Headed Corpse and the night Evelyn came out of the grave. And
oh yes, of course. Yeah, that now the is that kind of the shrouded corpse there kind of looks like Tomb of the Blind Dead. See that guy, the skeleton, and the right behind her.
Like, yeah, exactly. One of the Blind Dead Templars. Yeah,
could be.
Yeah, I'm sure that he used that. That's a good eye there. I forgot about that a little bit. And it couldn't be that the guy's face, the big face right here, it kind of looks like the guy from Reanimator, the doctor, that guy, David Gale or whatever.
Yes.
It couldn't be him, but it kind of looks like him.
Yeah, it was before that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great cover, though.
Yeah. Okay. Now here's a beautiful cover. This is number 23. Make sure I got my numbers right here.
Mont Comics says, absolutely loving this stuff. Beautiful. I'm going to aim at collecting these. That's exactly who I thought it was, Erica Blanc. Well, there you go. Right on the money there.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that one. What the heck?
Yeah,
what
this
the
is
heck?
Gorgeous. This is by another great cover by Sebastian Bowata. And the girl there, does that remind you of anybody?
I don't know, but it looks like she's trying to mansplain something. Look at her leg, the way she's sitting. She's like,
yeah, that's kind of curious and suggestive.
It is.
Odd in a weird way.
That is just totally great. And the lizard creature. down there.
Oh
That is,
yeah,
that is really
yeah. And
trippy.
there's like a decapitated head
In a
there.
decapitated head.
But this female character kind of looks like the artist Sebastian Bellata might have used Victoria Vetri from When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth.
Oh, that's very possible. That could be Vetri.
It's
I
not
mean, they were.
exactly, you know.
Uh, it's obvious. Yes, they were using. They were, basing a lot of, at least in partially in these covers, images from movies. There's no
Yeah,
doubt about that. Just riffing on faces and stuff.
right. Well, it's a cheap model, you just get a good photo and go
Yeah,
from there.
exactly. Oh, people and everybody did it.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely everybody doing comic books does that.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's pretty standard.
Interior art in this one: Gene Day, Jose Martin Sori, Jose Cardona, Cesar Lopez, Farron Sostris, Ramon Torrance, Melo Centron. This has a bit of prose by Robert E. Howard in it.
Wow. Oh,
Uh,
they were getting a little literary
yeah,
towards the end there.
yeah, and let's see. It also has a 5-page catalog of novelty items called the Little Horror Mood Shop of Horrors. That's similar to Warren's Captain Company. That begins in this issue.
Wow. God, those things must be rare. Whatever novelty items they were selling. Jeez.
Okay, this is number 24. This is the last issue. And it's a great cover, another great cover by Sebastian Bowata.
Whoa.
Okay, this interior art, Gene Day, Jose Martin Sori as Robert Martin, Paul Puijagut. Boy, I'm butchering these names, I know. Melo Centron, Domingo Gomez, Jose Cardona as Andy Cardona, Luis Collado as Stan Connerty, Sebastian Bowata did something on the inside here. Sanho Kim as Chul Sanho Kim. And let's see, yeah, this is the last issue. So they're
Nice.
and Dave Sim. Wait a minute. Uh, he this is has a story written by Dave Sim, and this is his pro debut, where he
Wow.
wrote a story. Of Cerebus the Aardvark.
Yes. Well, there's another key issue right there then.
Yeah. Oh boy, better slap him.
Yeah.
Not.
CGC, man.
Yeah. There are ads in here for Werewolf and Psycho next issue. Evidently, they were going to have some werewolf story in the Psycho that didn't materialize, I guess, because this was the last one. And
Nice.
we've got a couple of annuals, and then we're done with Psycho. This is number 70, the 1972 annual. Yeah, here we go. This cover is by Alberto Pujolar, or Pujolar, I guess. And features art by Pablo Marcos Villanova, Carlos Garzon, Ramon de la Fuente, Francisco Cueto, Steve Hickman, Amador Garcia, Ramon Torrance.
God, that face reminds me of who played the priest in The Exorcist? The young priest, not Max von Sydow, but
Yeah, the Italian guy. I can't think of his name right now.
yeah, but at one point he's possessed. Remember,
Yeah,
he's like except for the fangs, obviously.
right. And this is the last one. This is the 1974 uh, Psycho Yearbook,
Oh, nice.
number one. And, it's got a whole lot of reprints
Very cool.
and ads for the horror mood. And this has a new story in it, actually, called The Brides of Frankenstein.
Very cool.
And that is the entire Psycho run.
Cool. Check it out. Now, here's something. I believe these are, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Now, these are Spanish editions, but I think this is a cover from Scream.
Scream number 2.
Scream number 2, right, exactly. Now, this is, of course, Horror, Historias Terroríficas. And this is Spanish edition of Scream.
Oh, those are great, man. Yeah.
And you don't get much in the way. I mean, it's like, it's pretty sparse. There's no credits of the artists at all
Really?
in here. No, it just has the names of the stories, and that's it.
Wow.
You don't get any other credits. But this is listed as 1975. So there's that. I'm gonna go solo for a second.
Do
There
you
we
think
go.
that is from
It's a great cover.
do you think that is from Spain or Mexico?
It is from Spain.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's got the on the inside, 1975, and so this is the Spanish version of Scream right here, and also on the back. Interesting to note that they have other offerings. Of course, there's horror, but they have Western. It's kind of interesting. Don't know where that's coming from, but
No, either.
obviously, and there's Combate, which has got these must be U.S. obviously same publisher, and Africa Salvaje there.
Yeah.
So there you go. You got the various our collection of comics. So there's their apparently their 4 comics. And I never saw any Spanish versions of Psycho or Nightmare. Only horror, which is obviously from Scream. And I think this other issue, I've got another issue of it. And you can tell me if this is also Scream.
Just a second. I had to step away for just a second because
Okay.
I'm loading up my box with my screams and stuff. I don't think so.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, this cover is definitely a riff on what was it? The uh, Werewolf of London. Am I correct there?
Yeah, looks like it.
Kind of looking a bit like Werewolf of London. And this is earlier, actually. Once again, they don't credit the artists, but this is 1973.
How did you get those? Were you in Spain for a while?
I was in Peru,
Okay.
and there was this guy in a market, kind of a sleazy market, and he had a ton of magazines on a table. And I saw these. I was like, oh man, I got to pick these up. They were like $1.
Yeah.
So I had to pick up some Spanish versions.
Those are
I'm
hard
not
to
even.
find, man. Those actually have some value, you know?
They might.
Yeah, I
They
think
might.
so
I
too.
mean, it's hard to say. I mean, these are kind of in rough shape. As I say, they were like $1, but good enough in any case, and
You got a hell of a deal there, man.
pretty interesting that that they actually adapted Scream from Skywald, for the series. It's too bad they didn't do Nightmare or Psycho. I'm not really quite sure why they didn't bother to do that, but just to show people what we were talking about earlier. Here's some other examples. Now, what I was saying before too is that these don't quite count because they're not original, but this is I think this is issue number 1 of Shock. Now,
Yeah.
this is Stanley Morse, and it's simply now that's actually a cover from Weird Chills comic book. I want to say circa 1953. Maybe 1954, Weird Chills #1. They only put out 3 issues of
Look
Weird
at that
Chills.
dude in the back there, man. That's so cool.
Yeah, and that's actually Bernard Bailey. The art is Bernard Bailey. He literally took the cover and put it on issue #1 of Shock.
It's
So there you
freaky.
go. And this is all reprints, you know. So that's the kind of thing you would expect from Stanley Morris back in the 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
This type of deal. He put a lot of Bernard Bailey covers that were directly taken from the pre-code comic books, like this one. And then there's Eerie Publications. Here's an example, guys. This one is not nearly as insane, but it is still pretty good. You got the vampire being accosted by a bunch of undead people back there, and he's trying to get it on with the vampire chick in there, or the woman that's been placed in the coffin. I guess she's not a vampire. She's got a gag, and she's looking on in horror.
That's really
So
good.
I guess the question is, who's going to win? You know what I'm saying? I think she's wondering that, and either outcome is kind of bad for her, I would say.
Yeah.
Uh, but this is classic Tales from the Tomb. It's all 50s reprints, guys. So it doesn't really count in what we're talking about with Nightmare, Psycho, Eerie, Creepy, which was all original stories, you know. But it is interesting to note, and I wonder if in this issue, if any of these are redraws. You see, I mean, they didn't credit people either. It was really bad. Carl Burgos was the editor at the time, Ezra Jackson, art editor, and Irving Foss, Myron's brother, was the art director.
Yeah.
But yeah, you see, now this, Terror in Black, now that's a redraw. And they had a lot of South American artists who did the redraws for Eerie Publications. But sometimes they would just take the original stories and not even bother to redraw them. They just, print them.
Yeah.
Um, and the quality was like, it was kind of a mixed bag. Uh, I mean, they got, who knows? The guys, they probably barely paid these guys, but most of the stuff in this issue is definitely redraws of classic 50s pre-code stuff.
Yeah.
So there you go. And you can see it, it's not particularly like, it's just there, basically. And as far as I'm concerned, it's not fantastic. Nothing to write home about, but that's what Eerie Publications did. And this is just a typical example with Tales from the Tomb, So there you
Well,
go.
it wasn't necessarily good, but for us, it was great.
Yeah, exactly,
We
exactly.
love it, man. We love that stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, it was, also too, it was the covers. Now, going forward, 1982. Uh, okay. I just want to make sure that I'm right here because I'm sure. Yeah, Bruce Jones created Twisted Tales.
Yeah.
Bruce Jones created Twisted Tales. I'm going to take it out. Way too much glare in the Mylar. But this is a classic issue of Twisted Tales, #5, I believe, with a Corben cover.
Yep.
And Bruce Jones, he pioneered this title, and he got a lot of great artists. Bernie Wrightson was doing a lot of stuff for this, of course. Richard Corben, you know.
Yep.
But Twisted Tales is worth checking out, guys. Really good stories. Of course, they also did Alien Worlds,
Yep.
which I think a lot of people are familiar with. And of course, it was all, oh God. Yes, some of these, man. You got Rand Holmes, Bruce Jones, banjo lessons,
Oh God, yeah.
which is just a particularly shocking uh, story. I mean, they did some good stuff in here. There is no doubt about that. Some of the art is fantastic. Yeah, majority of one. Check out that splash page. That
Yeah,
is just beauteous.
it is.
So they had really great artists. Val Myrick, in particular, there on that one. Bill Ray was in this. Of course, Bruce Jones wrote a lot or most of it, but just there's nothing like Corbin in color. And you just gotta love this stuff, man. So highly recommended, folks. Twisted Tales and the Twisted Tales annual, which I'm sure Michael Dodd has. Of course, I have it too, with the fantastic Dave Stevens cover, one of my favorite Dave Stevens covers. It is just, it's classic punk rock, meets the undead. It's very much always reminded me of Return of the Living Dead. It just has that total vibe about it. And then you've got the Elvira type woman there,
Kind of looks like Joan Jett.
It's like Joan Jett. Yeah, Joan Jett, Elvira. Get in there. I just love that ghoul.
Yeah.
The punk ghoul, man, with the Dead Boys tattoo. It is so great. And once again, it does not fail to entertain. There is some great stuff in this. Uh, God, they've got yeah, Termites from Mars. That's a really weird one. Pencils by Rick Stasi. Once again, written by Bruce Jones, but some really strange stuff. But it's Eclipse. All the once again, yeah, I guess that is true. Twisted Tales started off with Pacific Comics, but then they flipped to Eclipse Comics,
Yeah.
right? When Pacific Comics folded,
Yeah.
like other stuff, I think, and also like Rocketeer,
Yeah.
Twisted Tales went to uh, Eclipse. So you've got this great annual, and I just love it. This is like one of those issues, a lot of black, folks. So any imperfections are going to show up on this. But fortunately, the cover, this one is particularly nice, and I
Yeah.
just love it. So that is some later uh, horror comic action for you. Now, this is something a little more mainstream, but I really do. I mean, I'm not a big later DC fan per se, but they did a series called the Solo series,
Yeah.
and this is the Richard Corbin Solo series, and that Cyclops is just sweet. I mean, that is just beautiful. So this is all Corbin stuff in here, and it is crazy good. I mean, the coloring, everything. Once again, it's just a sight to behold. Highly recommended. You can track these down on eBay for less than $10 or $10 maximum. In very good shape. It's and there's also, I want to say, yep, there is another great thing about this. There is a Richard Corbin the Spectre story. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. The DC character the Spectre. Corbin does a story of the Spectre in this issue.
Huh.
Highly recommended. The Spectre looks totally cool. I mean, in of course, in complete Corbin style. That is just some really sweet work by Corbin. So this is one of those DC issues that I highly recommend. I think they did a very good job with this solo series, and you can pick this up relatively inexpensively. It you know it's really really pretty reasonably priced. So there's that. And there are a couple of other things. Now, we brought these up before. I'm just going to bring up one. This is Seduction of the Innocent, and this is all reprints. That's a Reed Crandall cover taken from an interior story.
Yeah.
But this is reprints of pre-code horror comics, guys. And they're really good. The reproductions are awesome. Highly recommended. But these are some other kind of oddities that you might be interested in the horror comics you know, genre. This is from Kitchen Sink.
Oh
This is
yeah.
Death Rattle.
Yeah, that's pretty
And of
good.
course, Corbin strikes again.
Yeah.
He's just all over the place. I mean, the guy just did so much in the way of horror, fantasy, and science fiction. Quite prolific, really. You know, and another great cover. It's got a whole bunch of great stuff in it. Now, I want to say, yeah, this is once again Rand Holmes, and Rand Holmes did a lot of underground comic stuff, and he's featured in this issue. Really cool artist. You know, it's well worth it, folks. You got the weird comic stylings. This is a weird story, a long story too. Charles Burns, Ill Bred. This is a really bizarre horror story. In the pages of Death Rattle, number one, Death Rattle number 1, right there
Yeah.
for
It's
you.
a fun series.
Yeah, it is. It really is great, man. You know, and this is just a couple of other miscellaneous ones that you guys might be interested in. The Barn of Fear. Yes, from CAG, or Comic Art Gallery was the publisher. If you, that's just kind of an obscure one, but
Yeah, I've never seen that.
check out this freaking, it's like the, of course it's the Barn of Fear, and no doubt about that, because the farmer's just been picked clean by all of the barnyard residents, including inexplicably a monkey. uh
How'd that monkey get in there, man?
I don't know, man, but it's just a great cover. The cover is oh yeah, all God, amazing Alfredo Alcala
Okay.
cover,
Yeah.
and just some fantastic. Like this back cover is like these rabbit characters are making out. Oh, here comes Swamp Thing, or like a swampy kind of thing.
A muck
Uh,
monster.
yeah, I mean it's this is some this stuff, folks. It's God, a cover price $1. Totally in that EC style. There's your scarecrow skeleton in, you know, as your host. You've got just, oh man, let's play chicken, which is just a really grisly story. Very great art uh inside. Alcala does a lot of the interiors. Uh there's a ton, oh yeah, yeah. Dave Hunt. Dave Hunt does the Let's Play Chicken. So really good underground horror comic, you know, that you might want to check out, and you can pick it up. It's not that expensive. Once again, a lot of the undergrounds are not very pricey. This one I really love. It's a you may have seen this. You may even have it, Michael. Um, it is from the DC line, and this is Bernie Wrightson's The Macabre.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is signed. You can see the black marker there on
Uh-huh.
the guy. And it's got the really cool certificate of authenticity with another Wrightson
Oh, that's nice.
illustration, which is totally cool. Uh, some really great stuff in here. God, I mean, they have Not quite sure who that is. Definitely ringing a bell though. On both sides, but the House of Madness,
Yep.
very cool. Um, Not sure who the writer is though. That's what I meant to say. It's obviously all rights and but art. Not sure who wrote these though.
What is the
It's
title of that?
it's called the Macabre.
No, hold it down a little bit so I can see the title up there. Yeah, it's
Oh, it's
the
just Masterwork
Masterwork series
series,
of great comic book artists. Yeah, I've got that issue.
right? But I think it's just. I mean, the actual isn't it the Macabre? Isn't
The
that the
story,
actual
yeah, the story
title?
is. I think that's the story that
Oh, okay, maybe you're right. Here, let me take a look. Uh, Maybe. Oh, that's kind of weird. No, it doesn't even have a what the.
Okay.
Yeah, the
I don't
story.
know. I don't
Well,
know.
here it is, right here. The story is called The Gourmet. You see,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
the magazine is called The Macabre,
Okay,
or
okay.
the title, because this is that classic ending. I love this. God, the
Yeah,
art where he gets his just desserts there.
yep.
All the little froggies. That is just so good, man. This is top notch Bernie Wrightson. Highly recommended, folks. Once again, these are not very expensive. I mean, especially unsigned copies. I think you can get them for a song. They're just they I don't know, $10
Yeah,
maximum. I would say they're you know just not very uh costly on even on eBay.
right.
But there that was kind of my output. I think that's pretty much it. I think I'm going to start thinking about for a later episode doing a Lovecraft, because there's a lot of other stuff I have that, and I know you've got some, obviously have some stuff, and Lovecraft would be quite great to cover.
Yeah, I can dig
Um,
some up.
let's get back. I know I missed some of these. Oh, yeah. Michael Taylor says, guys, maybe Castle of Frankenstein in the future. I've got a couple of issues of Castle and Frankenstein, and they're pretty cool. Oh, Jason Miller. That was the
Yeah,
priest.
Jason
Right.
Miller, that was the guy's name.
Yep. Michael Taylor says, cool Psycho Mags. Cool to have the Spanish version of Scream. Yeah, really just one of those things. I was in Peru. I was looking for any place that was selling like science fiction or horror comics or magazines.
Yeah.
And I just happened to find this guy in a kind of an antique mall, and he had a few issues that was totally cool. Michael Taylor, Mike, that's a cool Werewolf of London cover. It is. I love that cover. Also, Michael Taylor, I think Carl Burgos created the original Human Torch. He did.
Yeah.
I do believe that is correcto. Mont Comics, I have all the Twisted Tales. I love them, except the annual. I gotta get that. Yeah, it's great, and it's not going to set you back that much. Mont Comics. It's one of those things. Twisted Tales, once again, people love it, but it really didn't go up in value that much, so they're pretty reasonable, as far as cost goes on eBay and so forth. Michael Taylor says that's a cool Cyclops cover. Yeah, it's Corben and the colors, man. Michael Taylor says, guys, a little off topic, but a coyote tried to drag a girl away. The story was on the news last night. What the hell? Okay, I've missed that one. Uh, but that could have been part of one of these issues. I'm
The
sure of it.
ballsy coyote.
Yeah. Mont Comic says, I'm going to go watch my new Blu ray of Corruption with Peter Cushing. Oh, very cool. Great stream, guys. Thanks and God bless. Thank you, Mont Comics. I think we're going to wrap it up now. But it's been a great show, with the exception of my blue screen of death, which I apologize for. That was kind of I cannot believe that just happened right in the middle of it. That was bad news. But thank you, Michael Dodd.
No
Thank you very
problem.
much for coming on the show. People, you need to go and check out uh, Michael's site and subscribe. And if you haven't already, please click the like button and subscribe to mine. But I'm going to, once again, I'm going to get down here. There we go. There it is. And bring this up. So there it is. That's Michael Dodd's channel. Please go over there, check it out, subscribe, and check out his videos. And so Friday, we're back on the massive, I'm absolutely sure Tubi is going to have another massive drop of films. So Friday night, guys, thank you all for showing up. It was, I think, a great episode. And we will see you soon. You guys take care.
See you guys.